This is TWiT.
So it all started not so long ago. Reddit decided they wanted to go public. I'm sure you covered this, Alex, when it happened. But what are their prospects for an IPO? Good? What were their prospects?
They filed privately.
Okay.
So I'm just pulling that up now. I forgot the date. December 16th, 2021. So they filed privately to go public, which they can do. But keep in mind what was going on in late 2021. It was the apex. It was the peak of the last asset and venture capital boom. So they filed probably with great aspirations to go public right before everything changed and went kind of to hell, frankly. So I think they're probably dealing with some impatient bankers and backers.
They wanted to go public.
I think you also argue that sorry, Leo. Don't you also argue that like this is sort of a very similar problem that a lot of tech companies had, which was they saw this, like Meta is a really good example of this, where they saw a huge boom in users during the time when everyone was staying home and locked down with nothing to do but be on the internet or use their Meta Quest, and decided that was going to be the new normal, and that they somehow convinced people, oh yeah, these are our new normal numbers. They'll just always be this way.
I mean, a great example of that was Roblox.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Roblox was doing a simply insanely amazing business at the time. Coinbase was very similar. Money was just raining down from the sky. Incredible profits. These companies looked, bulletproof and, generation making sources of wealth. But things changed. And so Reddit, I think, is dealing with, yes, a change in the valuations climate. And also, as everyone in the podcast world knows, Leo, a decline in overall ad spend. And so it's a tougher market for them. And I think where you're going next is how they reacted to that.
Well, let me ask first, have they ever had a profit?
It's hard to say. I don't probably think so, because they sold back in the day for not that much money, and then they got other forms of investment.
They were acquired by Condé Nast. Condé spun it off as a standalone, although they still hold the majority of shares. Filed for the private IPO a couple of years ago, but didn't do anything about it. And they were apparently, according to the information, planning this IPO. This is from a story on Valentine's Day, so a few months ago, in the second half. We are in the second half, by the way, or we will soon be in the second half. Hard to be due to a good IPO. Is it hard? Alex, you're an expert. Can you do an IPO if you've never turned a profit?
So you can. It depends a little bit on how your business is set up. A lot of software companies, for example, will go public when they're growing pretty quickly, but still consuming cash. And then people expect their growth rate to slow down over time and then to become more profitable, a bit like Salesforce or Microsoft or whatever. The issue that Reddit has is that it's a social media company, kind of. And so its comps are not Salesforce or Atlassian. They're Meta or Snap or Pinterest. And those companies tend to trade at lower multiples. And so I think there's probably less market willingness to allow them to go public if they're unprofitable, or more importantly, if they're still consuming a lot of cash. Because you can be cash flow positive and still unprofitable under GAAP terms. And I know that's too deep, but the point is profit's a little squishy. And so I don't think we know offhand how well Reddit's doing on that metric, but because they haven't gone public yet, Leo, I presume the answer is not so well.
Well, and that's probably why they filed in 2021, but still never went public, because they were waiting for something to get better, market conditions, the market itself, or perhaps their own profitability. As far as I know, they've never had a turn to profit. So they have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Last round of funding was a $10 billion valuation in 2021. That might encourage you. We're worth $10 billion.
That seems so high. Reddit, I don't know.
It was reportedly hoping for a $15 billion valuation on the market. They were on the precipice, according to the information, of going public last year, but then hit pause. Meanwhile, Fidelity, who has, by the way, valued Twitter at $13 billion, interesting number. Fidelity valued Reddit at $6.6 billion. So there is some gap between what Reddit thinks it's worth and what everybody else might think it's worth. In any event, it was clear, I think, probably at the highest levels of Reddit, we got to figure out a way to make more money. Right? If we're going to go.
And how, what a great idea, Leo. Nothing wrong after that.
Initially, their initial, so here's what they, I think, did. They look at the balance sheet. They say, well, we have this much revenue. We have advertising. It wasn't a great advertising platform, but they have advertising. I pay for Reddit. There is a subscription system for Reddit. And then they're looking at their bandwidth bills. And they're saying, well, you know what's interesting? More than half of our bandwidth, I'm guessing a number, but I would guess more than half of our bandwidth isn't serving our web page or our apps. It's serving third-party apps. That's costing us some large amount of money. We should monetize that. Oh, by the way, no third-party app has ads, so we're not monetizing the third-party apps at all. And so Steve Hoffman, who started Reddit with Alexis Ohanian and Aaron Schwartz a couple of months later, and it came back as CEO after Reddit had a very rocky up and down leadership problem. Ellen Pao, for instance, who left, furious, I'm sure, with the boys club. So Steve took it and said, it's my company. I started it. I know how to run it. I'm going to run it. Steve says, well, I know one way we can make some more money is cut off these third-party apps. Look, Elon just did it on Twitter. In fact, Twitter's done it before. Third-party apps suck bandwidth and don't show your ads. So Twitter cut off the third-party a long time ago. They slowly kind of came back. Elon cut it off in a very ugly fashion late last year when he just turned off the API and put a lot of companies in mortal danger. So I think what happened is Huffman said, we're not going to be evil like Twitter. We're going to let them know. Unfortunately, he gave them 1 month. And the API costs they proposed, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, were 24 cents per 1,000 hits.
Per 1,000 calls. Yeah, I think that matches my
calls,
memory.
yeah.
It was a lot of money. That's a huge amount of money. The number one Reddit app, an app I use and love, because, by the way, we should also mention, Reddit does have iOS and Android apps. They're unusable. Yeah. They're awful.
I did not know there were third-party iOS apps on Reddit or for Reddit, and so I've been using the official one, and oh my God.
It's awful.
It is not good. Yes.
But Apollo,
it's bad.
Written by a guy named Christian Seelig, is fantastic. And there's others. Reddit is fun. Riff on Android. I use Joey on Android for a long time. There's Narwhal. There is a fairly rich ecosystem of third-party apps. Christian Seelig, on a phone call, talking to them, they said 24 cents for 1,000 calls. He did some math. He said, that's going to cost me $20 million a year. To which they said, yeah, and? So?
Better put some ads on there.
Better do something.
Yeah.
What Spez is Steve Huffman's handle on Twitter. What he said was, well, just charge your users for that. $5 a user, you're going to be great. It's more complicated than that. He's got grandfathered users because of fees from Apple, for instance, which takes 30%, and the credit cards. It would not be $5. It wouldn't be. It would. He would actually. He said he was on Tech News Weekly this week on Thursday. He told Micah and Jason Howell, I would lose 10 cents a user if I charged $5 a month. So, and he reasonably says I can't charge more than $5 a month. So he says I'm out of business end of the month. Now I'm sure he's made a good living. Apollo was, I think, well funded. He had a lot of users, and I paid for it. A lot of people did. Riff also said, yeah, we're going to cut the cord end of the month. We can't pay this. Number of third-party apps said, all right, we're out of business. But this bothered the users. I think one of the problems Elon and Huffman have is they forget. They think people go to Twitter because of the software. They think people go to Reddit because of the software. People don't go to Twitter and Reddit because of your fabulous software, because of your servers, because of your trust and safety. They go there because of the other people, the content, which is all made by people.
Which is made for free. By those users.
Reddit's actually more in depth because Reddit uses volunteer mods who really put in the time. I mean, I might post once in a while. Work. But that's hard work. The mods are upset because a lot of the tools they use the API. And, oh, by the way, they prefer the third-party apps anyway. So the mods were upset. So they said, we're going to have a little boycott, June 12th through 15th. And about half the mods, half the subreddits, the channels on Reddit went dark. Right?
It was
a lot. To which Steve Huffman goes on a very ill-advised publicity tour, gives interviews to The Verge, NPR, NBC, and says The moderators are landed gentry. They are the problem. We're going to make it possible for the users to vote the mods out, and we're going to force these communities to reopen. And that really pissed people off.
Yeah.
My favorite one is r/pics, which decided. So iPhone, for instance, went dark forever. They said move to Discord. We're gonna have a Discord channel. r/pics decided we're only gonna post pictures. It's a place where you'd post your pictures. We're only gonna post pictures of John Oliver from now on, and it's all John Oliver all the time.
Nothing else.
What a great protest, by the way.
Yeah, you're using up the servers, the bandwidth, using up server bandwidth to put John Oliver on your subreddit. Very good. Very good use. Very good use. Very good. But here's the thing, like Reddit, this is what Reddit is best at, right? It's like this sort of like
this is the culture.
Yeah, it's like it's this like this is exactly Reddit culture. I've been on Reddit. I don't even want to say how long I've been on Reddit because it's going to age me like too much. But literally I've been on Reddit a long time, and like I love Reddit. I love so many of these communities. Like there are so many of the funniest people I've ever encountered on the internet I've seen on Reddit. Like some of the funniest stories I've ever read have been on Reddit. And this is exactly the kind of like good chaos Reddit is known for. Like a lot of, there are some other less good communities that have, kind of moved on or have been sort of shadow banned. But the thing is like, collectively, there is a chaotic good about most of like mainstream Reddit that when harnessed and pointed in a certain direction can be very powerful.
Well, and it's interesting because Steve Huffman, who you would think would understand the culture, completely
you'd think so,
misunderstood how users would react. He sent out a memo to the team saying, A, don't go outside in your Reddit gear because you'll get tomatoes thrown at you, and B, it'll all pass. Don't worry. This is just, these are they're babies. They're landed gentry. They're going to whine and moan, and everything will be back to normal. Is he right?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
I think going back to Leo's comment about how people don't go to Twitter and Reddit for the software is actually a bit of an understatement, given that Reddit and Twitter have famously crap server capacity.
Yes, they're terrible.
Remember the fail whale?
Yeah.
There's the two apps that still don't work somehow in 2023. In the era of a multi-public cloud environment, they can get their infra straight. So, no, I think people only come for the community, and people are going to leave and find other options slowly. I mean,
there
Twitter
isn't,
is still
I have to say, I've looked, there's a Fediverse thing called Lemmy. There's K-Bit, but there isn't really anything. There's Discord, I guess. There's nothing like Reddit.
Discord's hard because it's like it's not easily browsable, right? It's like you have to know what you want. Like when I go and I want to join a community like Club Twit, like I know what I'm looking for and that's what I join. But it's like on Reddit, you can just surf Reddit and find a community that you didn't know existed. It's like maybe you don't go to maybe you never would have found a community had you not just seen a post surface, a really hot post surface on Reddit. And then you find like this really great community like Restoration. Restoration is like one of my favorite Reddit communities. Like I love seeing people restore photos. I find it terribly fascinating. And I would have never found that had it not just popped up on my feed one day because one of the posts was really blowing up. And so I went in there and I'm like, oh my God, I love this subreddit. I'm going to hang out in here. Yes. And so I, joined the subreddit. So the discoverability factor, I think, is really a key thing that makes Reddit different from any of its potential competitors like a Discord. I think Discord in particular would be the one that would come to mind first. But
don't Twitter have the advantage that if you want to know what the zeitgeist is of the internet, you can go there and you can quickly get a handle on what people are talking about, what people care about. Yeah. And so for me, it's hugely, they're both very, very valuable. Furthermore, Reddit is valuable for a lot of people who instead of searching Google, they will add site:reddit.com on their Google searches because they get much more useful information.
Better results, results all the time.
Google's going to suffer from this. We should also point out, and perhaps this is what got Huffman and the board upset, is that OpenAI was, in all probability, trained on the entirety of Reddit. They know exactly how much OpenAI sucked from Reddit. And it probably was a huge amount. And they're looking at OpenAI's valuation and then seeing Fidelity cut their valuation by half might have pissed them off. Alex, you don't think it's going to survive this?
Well, I think I was actually going to bring up the AI point, so I'm glad you did. I really do think that we need to figure out some way to receive compensation for work that is ingested into AI products that is then sold to other people. Like that just seems very reasonable to me. The reason why I don't worry as much about discoverability or the other issues that are very clear when we talk about why Twitter and Reddit are still around is because I don't think there's going to be a one-to-one replacement for them. Right away. But I do think there's a slow poison effect to this, Leo. Like whenever I'm on Twitter now, I feel like I'm helping Elon make his interest payments. Yeah. And now when I'm on Reddit, I feel like I'm helping somebody who tried to union bust unpaid mods. And so it just takes away some of the spark and joy for me. And that means I'm probably going to use it less and less over time. Slow poison. Mm-hmm. So I think it's are Reddit's best days ahead of it. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who said, yeah, this is the right direction to go in. And I think it's going to take a couple of years to play out, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're past peak Reddit now.
There's also poison's a good word because it isn't going to go away any more than Twitter went away. Mm-hmm. But if half the subreddits that I follow went away, I could still go to Reddit and get some of what I got, but maybe I wouldn't even notice, but there's going to be some thinning of the quality. Plus, the people who are going to stick around who are insensitive to what's happening, maybe not the people I want to follow. You talked about Reddit's culture, Ashley. There was a very quirky, unique culture, and I have to think a lot of the people who contribute to that will leave if they haven't already left.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of moderators bots, people who build bots. That's another aspect of Reddit that I think a lot of people really appreciate, like regardless of whether it's a super useful bot or a sillier bot. There are people who put in that work even on Reddit. And so it's a real house of cards because once you start removing people who are conduits for the zeitgeist, then all of a sudden there is no zeitgeist. You can't get that temperature check. And then that's when those people who get the temperature checks on Reddit start using it even less. It's just it's a real cascading effect, and you have to appreciate that your users are utilizing your service in order to connect with each other and also create content that other people like. And so to kind of fly in the face of that and ignore it is really, it's like shocking to me as someone who co-founded Reddit. Like you said, Leo, like it's shocking to me that Spez is so defiant in this. But I think this speaks to that like overall problem. And sorry, my dog's barking at a squirrel outside if anyone can hear it.
Squirrel!
He's just going absolutely bananas right now. The sun came out for a day and he's like, I've had it with any living creature in this yard. But I think it really speaks to this kind of growth at all costs forever. That's just unsustainable. It's just an unsustainable business model. This like, we must have year over year growth every year in perpetuity. Like it's just not a thing that's realistic. And to be able to sit there and call your moderators who work for free, you're calling them landed gentry. I mean, it's just absolutely
so.
It's just so dramatic. First of all, like stop it. Like stop. Sit down.
Yeah, I want to say in the Verge interview that Spez did, he discussed how, if Google had third-party apps when it went public and people could kind of get Google's results in their app but didn't charge for it and use Google's API to kind of suck their search results out, would Google have allowed that? So why should Reddit? And initially I kind of sat back and was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting argument. But then I realized that the work that makes Reddit great, the company doesn't do, whereas the search results that made Google special when it did go public were actually the company's work. And so to me, there's just a misunderstanding of where the value comes from this company. And I think that that's leading to some poor choices. And this may end up driving enough near-term revenue to go public. And Spez will get feted for that and patted on the shoulder and given his block of money. And fine, capitalism. But, as someone who's been on Reddit now for 14 years, according to my profile I just pulled up, and as a charter member of what was then called Reddit Gold, I'm disappointed that the site that I spend so much time on is apparently forgetting who it is and who made it worth what it may be worth to the market sometime. It's a bummer. But also, Reddit's been around for a long time. Maybe it had to go the way of Facebook at some point, right? All ad-based properties eventually decay to the point in which they commit suicide. Google search is a good example.
It's the, as Cory Doctorow called it, the enshittification of the internet.
Hey there, I'm Micah Sargent. Look, as a geek myself, I feel it's only fair if I admit something. We can be kind of hard to shop for. So what do you get for that geek in your life who has everything already? Well, a Club TWiT gift subscription, of course. TWiT podcasts keep them informed and entertained with the most relevant tech news podcasts available. With a Club TWiT subscription, they're going to get access to all of our podcasts ad-free, exclusive outtakes, behind the scenes and special content, and I love this, exclusive shows like my own Hands on Mac and Hands on Windows from Paul Thurrott, as well as the Untitled Linux Show. So purchase your geek's gift at twit.tv/clubtwit, and they will thank you every day.